Not at all. There's quite a revolt brewing right now here in Quebec, and I think Mr. Coderre, feeling betrayed by his leader, has now started a motion of events that are going to happen. We just heard a few minutes ago that not only has Mr. Coderre resigned as lieutenant, but now the chief organizer, Pierre Lajeunesse, has just tendered his resignation, and we're getting a copy also of Jean Rizzuto's letter of resignation. He's the chief fundraiser for the province, and there's more to come. So I think it's has set in motion quite a revolt.
JD, are you hearing the same?
Yes, and I'm told also that Jean-François Coderre, who is Mr. Coderre's cousin, plans to resign. Also, he's quite involved in the party. But this has started a fire, and unfortunately, there's no firefighters trying to put out this fire, and it will probably continue to have consequences over the next few days.
Where does it go, though? Is Denis Coderre that powerful in Quebec for the Liberal Party that he could retain most of that machine for himself, no matter what he wanted to do with it?
He will command some loyalty, but more importantly, Mr. Coderre was the voice and the face of the Liberal Party of Mr. Ignatieff in Quebec. Now, from now, we won't see much of him. We won't hear much from him, and that has consequences because Mr. Coderre was ready to go on TV in the morning and talk about the Liberal message, or at night, or at any time of the day. We'll have nobody to do that as forcefully as Mr. Coderre. So there's a big vacuum. And Mr. Ignatieff announced today they will not fill that position for the next few weeks. So the Liberal Party is the only party in Ottawa with the Green Party with no Quebec lieutenant. Imagine that.
Jean, I think it was you who said once prophetically that Denis Coderre works very, very hard, and the only thing is you want to make sure he's working for you and not against you. Does Denis Coderre now start actively working against Michael Ignatieff and the establishment of the party?
No, but Denis Coderre is going to be a free agent, though. I mean, now, obviously, he's going to take care of his riding. He's going to come back eventually to the scene to give us all those nice clips and juicy clips that we like, but then he's not going to be bound to defend the leader or what have you. So he'll be on his own, and he's been pretty good at that. So that means also all those candidates that Mr. Coderre has found personally. I mean, he did 50,000 kilometers on his car this summer because he found those candidates. He went and convinced them to run. And so from now on, those people have more loyalty to Denis Coderre than to Michael Ignatieff, who's never spoken to them. And so it's going to be quite interesting to see how things evolve. And you know, there's this big convention next weekend in Quebec City where Mr. Ignatieff is going to come down, and who wanted to do a show of unity. Well, he will have to find somebody else to play with because Denis Coderre is not going to be there.
Is there any chance, Jean, that some of those candidates that Denis Coderre had lined up for the Quebec ridings may now change their minds and not run for the Liberals?
Well, the prime example is Madame Lepreon, Nathalie Lepreon, that is supposed to go to Jeanne Lebert. I know now that she's reconsidering her decision to run in Jeanne Lebert.
And that, JD, would be big news if she pulled out. I mean,
yeah, because she's supposed to be a prominent businesswoman in Montreal. And not many Liberals have heard about her in the past, but she's supposed to be a prominent businesswoman. And she was supposed to be a prominent woman in Quebec, running for the Liberal Party. And apparently last Friday, she was the one who proposed a compromise that would allow Martin Cochon to run in Outremont, again in his riding, and her to run in Jeanne Lebert. Jeanne Lebert is currently held by the Bloc Québécois. And if this infighting continues, the Bloc Québécois will continue to reign in that riding for a while.
Here's a question for both of you. And Jean, yeah, go ahead, Jean.
Even for Martin Cochon, it's not going to be a cakewalk because now Dr. Komla Amazou has just confirmed that he's going to run at the nomination meeting, and he's sold hundreds of membership cards. So Martin Cochon will have to win even his nomination now.
Well, that'd be ironic if after all this Martin Cochon lost the nomination fight in Outremont. But a question for both of you, and Jean, let me start with you and then go over to JD. This is a party, it seems anyway, in Quebec that is in the midst of some chaos at the moment. But without a Quebec lieutenant, without a political boss, who's running the show in Quebec now? Jean?
Well, the thing is now the leader has to make some decisions. He has nobody left in caucus that could do the job, frankly. But you know, the problem is you had those Alf Apps and what's his name, Dan Brock, playing in Quebec and trying to go over the head of Coderre and of the advisory committee. Those guys have just created a mess for themselves. Now they better get out of it, and it'll take a while because you don't have that many generals that are ready to serve.
Absolutely true. Mr. Coderre was the face and the voice of the Liberal Party in Quebec. His departure is leaving a big void, and Mr. Ignatieff cannot fill that void alone. He's got a party to run across Canada, not only in Quebec. So he's leaving himself vulnerable, and apparently we're seeing that in the polls in Quebec. His support is dropping, according to some polls that we'll have later this week.
Well, that brings up a good point. Jean, how badly is this hurting Michael Ignatieff right now?
Well, we'll see the next few weeks, but obviously it's not helping at all, and it will have a lot of effect within the rank and files of the party, because they've known that Coderre has been hardworking, and they know now there's a major problem, and they wonder, who is this guy, Michael Ignatieff? Does he have any loyalty? And all those old workers, they know that a handshake with the leader, it should be like, you know, like written in stone, and now they have their doubts.
Yeah. JD, I mean...
Exactly. It's certainly undermining Mr. Michael Ignatieff's leadership right now. The people who are in Quebec may feel a bit as a free agent with the departure of Mr. Coderre, and that has some consequences in terms of organization, whereas the Liberal Party is trying to provoke an elections.
Quickly, Jean, let me go back to you, because one phrase that stood out from what Denis Coderre said today was he said that decisions about what happens in Quebec seem to be made in Toronto. Now, those are fighting words if you're from Quebec, if you're saying our politics are controlled in a boardroom somewhere in Toronto, and he wants a complete house cleaning of the people around Michael Ignatieff. Is there going to be a huge amount of pressure on that inner circle to leave?
Well, I don't think they'll leave, because, you know, they've been with Mr. Ignatieff since the beginning. But I guess they'll have to learn to mind their own business. You know, Alfred Apps knows Montreal as much as I know South Africa. So, you know, it's probably where they mingle the things that they shouldn't not have had, and so it's real problem. And you're going to see all those people from, you know, that, you know, whether it's Bob Ray or the others, obviously they've been accused, and they thought that, well, Coderre is gone, good riddance. It's not good riddance. It's major problem, major crisis.
Jean Lapierre and Joël Denis Bellevance of La Presse, thank you both very much for being here. Always fun talking to you. Well, just for the record now,